Hello everyone, Mark Hookway here, coach at Tunbridge Athletic Club, and trying to help with the what we're calling the Tunbridge TAC mentoring, takeaways mentoring scheme. That's right, should know, I chose the wording for it. Raising issues where our athletes give some advice based on their own experience, so a bit more practical sometimes than a coach talking theory, but there are one or two subjects where I'd like to come in, and this one I want to talk briefly about how athletes might communicate with their coaches after races in terms of their reaction. And of course, a race can be an average one, it can go poorly, it can go really well, and I just want to put it across to athletes how coaches might see it, because perhaps you've never really thought about that. It's all about the athlete's reaction. But I just want to reassure athletes that probably just about every coach out there isn't necessarily totally concerned with how good you perceive or others perceive, or how he perceives or she perceives the actual performance. But the number one priority is that you are racing, you are competitive, you're giving it a go. There'll be information to come back from that. We also want to see that you're healthy and not injured, and that goes above any sort of performance, or how you might see any performance. And of course, races also might not necessarily be about just running a fast time. They might be about winning, assessing progress, part of training, trying things, so there's a whole host of reasons for racing and a whole host of things you can take away from them. But ultimately, I feel that as much as we can make it, and it does depend on personalities, you do want a coach-athlete relationship to be a two-way, constructive relationship, and really, that a flow of information going between the two of you, where you work it out between yourselves. It's not just purely in one direction. Some of our mentors have already done video clips about the fear of competition, nerves, aspects like that. And hopefully that might help you. You do recognise it, and really in that context you could say that if you get to the start line, you've achieved the toughest bit. That is often the toughest achievement. And when you think about it, a lot of people just don't even get to a start line. So in some ways, just doing that is a success, in the great scheme of things. And once you've done that, hopefully, however the race goes, you can take something from it. It might just be experience, it might be things that you can improve on, it might be confidence, a whole range of things. I think also from a coach's point of view, when an athlete comes off the track, you're trying to gauge what their emotions might be. You want to be really positive, you want to be constructive, you want to give good feedback, but sometimes, and you can see it in probably coaches' eyes, they duck out a little bit. No, not duck out, just want to let the dust settle. I think emotions run high straight after a race, and you just want the dust to settle and come back to it when there's been a period of a chance to reflect. And that might be the next day, it might be a few days later. So don't necessarily rush into it emotionally. A cool and calm assessment, if you get a chance to watch the video back of the race afterwards, is great. And I've seen it all. I've seen people come off sort of unperturbed by a bad performance, and even when they do a really good performance, won't give themselves a pat on the back. So you just don't know what the reaction is going to be. I do know one thing: it's really quite difficult for a coach if an athlete storms off the track, starts ranting and swearing and telling everyone how they're going to quit the sport, and coaches can then be totally lost for words. There's just nothing we can say. There's no point in trying to reason with somebody. It's like trying to reason with anybody you're in an argument with who's lost their temper. You've got to let things sort of calm down and then try and pick the bones out of it and try and move forward as best as you can. And sometimes try and maybe think how your coach is going to feel. You know, what do we want as a coach? We'd like to come off, just think about it, maybe have a little chat, but agree to come back to it later and then have a good, sensible dialogue about how to move forward. Sometimes you wouldn't believe it. Sometimes I think as coaches we care just as much as the athlete, and sometimes more, about how you're getting on, about your welfare, and desperately want you to do well. And with that comes a lot of pressure. And I suppose we've got to be seen as being cool, calm, collective, thoughtful. Even sometimes, for coaches, it's almost an unbearable pressure, with a number racing. And if you've got a group of athletes racing, say you've got 6 racing, 5 run well, and 1 underperforms or is disappointed, it's the one who underperforms that disappointed that generally your big focus is on, because we are so desperate for them to do well. So just think about the reaction to races and competition. Coaches probably will always say, what did you think about this? But you've got to find out really the truth and the honest assessment of what the coach thinks. And that can be difficult in the heat of the situation. So a few things to think about there. But we're all in it together. Generally, we all want the same sort of thing. We all want a good performance. We all want people to enjoy it. We all want people healthy and uninjured. And work together on that. But do think about your coach's reaction sometimes, and what's the best form of dialogue after a race. I hope that helps a little bit.